back in the day when you had that WEC run, URIJAH FABER was like a mythical fighter. What do you think was the key to that run?
I was one of the first guys to go all in without a bright future. It takes a dreamer, a delusional guy to be doing that, but I was in. And so
what was it like filming with Conor McGregor in Ultimate Fighter? And I'm so sad that that fight never materialized.
Basically, Dana was gonna let me fight Conor, and it didn't happen because
Sean O'Malley versus Merab. Who do you got in that matchup?
Merab is that wild card. He never looks good. He just looks it's ugly in your face, and he drowns motherfuckers. And so this might be the one matchup that is the kryptonite.
Like, I remember you would have all these guys come train with you, and potentially they could be fighting you.
I'm not afraid to show my skill set to anybody. Just like you going to compete. Like, oh, why would Demetrious Johnson give the common jiu-jitsu player a chance? Because we don't give a fuck. I know I'm badass. You know what I mean? You know you're badass. Like,
oh, it's 15-time world champion Demetrious Johnson. You're listening to the MightyCast.
there we go.
There we go. Look at that fucking view.
Not a bad view.
No, not at all, brother. Not at all. Okay.
Where you at right now?
I'm in Cabo.
All right, there we go. In 3, 2, 1. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the MightyCast. And this guest, he deserves a special introduction. I've been working on it. California love. Ladies and gentlemen, can you please help me welcome the California kid, URIJAH motherfucking FABER. How you doing, brother?
Oh, man. Nothing to complain about. Nothing to complain about. That's for damn sure. How are you, brother?
I'm good. And there's something you can complain about. Your ass is in Cabo. Look at the beach. Sun is shining. Retirement looks good on you, brother. Thank you so much for taking the time to join the podcast. And man, how you been?
Man, I've been great, brother. Just juggling a lot of things. Being a parent first and foremost. Obviously, we've got the team and the gym and work on a bunch of fun business stuff and trying to stay in shape. I got a match coming up with GFUEL, a little combat jiu-jitsu. Just being busy, man. Trying to stay active.
Well, let's go back. You retired, right? You recently retired from mixed martial arts. Now you have a match coming up. What made you want to do more mixed martial arts? Like you've done everything, right? I mean, why are you going back and competing again? Obviously, you're still in good shape. You look great. You got the family. You got the wife. Why are you going back to fight in mixed martial arts?
Well, it's going to be my birthday, May 14th. I'll be 45. And I tend to do things around my birthday. When I to give a treat to myself, have some sort of competition. I came out of retirement at 40. You remember? That was right around my birthday. I've done some other matches right around my birthday. I feel like kind of testing myself around my birthday. And I love combat jiu-jitsu. To me, combat jiu-jitsu is the new thing. I mean, I think that's the future of our sport. I think that's probably going to be the way jiu-jitsu is going to start migrating because it's such a realistic look at why you're even doing the sport. So I like that sport, man. I like combat jiu-jitsu, and that's the only way I really work out. 3 days a week, I teach and roll jiu-jitsu, and it's fun.
Gotcha. So it's combat jiu-jitsu. I thought we were doing mixed martial arts. So, okay, you're not doing the full-blown mixed martial arts training. It's combat jiu-jitsu, which people, if you guys don't know what combat jiu-jitsu is basically grappling with open hand strikes. Correct, URIJAH?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Open hand strikes and submission. So you can slap the hell out of somebody. So if you get them in the triangle, you can just whop them up. But no elbows, just open hand strikes. Correct?
No fists, no elbows. It's gonna be all jiu-jitsu with slaps, and I kind of like palm strikes. I guess would qualify.
But you can't do it on the feet. You can't strike on the feet. It has to be when you're on the ground. Correct?
Yeah, once you go to the ground, then you can start doing the slap. So,
gotcha.
It's fun.
Yeah, okay. I mean, you're still going to get a little concussions, whatnot, and a CTE. But as far as on the feet, you don't have to worry about all the slap and all that stuff. That's good. That's good. Now, I want to go back to the very beginning. Man, this building the podcast, building the YouTube, been working, grinding all the time. The podcast is something I've been very passionate about because I get to talk to all the athletes and figure out like what keeps them moving. Like you have always been a huge inspiration to me, even like back in the WC days when I was working full time, seeing you on WC, Amp Energy, Torque, and me, you have always talked about this. You have always been so good about building your brand, building your gym, and doing so many amazing things, all at the same time being one of the best in the world to do it. And so I'm trying to follow in your footsteps, doing the same thing and being super busy, but I'm not competing A1 Jiu-Jitsu combat. I've been competing more in IBJJF, and I recently just got my black belt. So everything's good, man. And raising the kids, I can't complain, man.
I was just saying, yeah, we've had a lot of great talk throughout the years, and I'm always rooting for you. I love seeing you do all this stuff, man. You always cooking, got great energy, and one of the greats, baby. Awesome.
All right, I want to take it back to the very beginning for you, Uriah. Now, I know there's no secret. You were an all-around athlete, right? But I feel like your first love and passion in martial arts was probably wrestling, correct?
Yeah.
And then you also did other sports. Guys, seeing those little cute pictures circling the internet, you in your little football gear when you're like maybe 8 or 12, correct?
Yeah.
And what made you go down the path of wrestling instead of like football? I'm assuming you didn't play basketball, right?
I played basketball in junior high. It wasn't very good, but I enjoyed it. I did some track. I used to play roller hockey. I was always a big boxing fan, but my parents wouldn't let me box. Probably better. And yeah, wrestling to me was as soon as I got my foot in the door there, it just was something that spoke to me, and I felt like I loved it. So basically been all in on the wrestling since get my butt kicked in my first tournament, and I was 13 years old at that time.
Damn. And then from that, did you wrestle in college, or did you just go to high school and then just straight into mixed martial arts? What was the transition from, after high school, did you go to college and wrestle and do the whole, NCAA stuff? What was that transition like?
Yeah, I was a college wrestler at UC Davis. It was, I was the all-time win leader. I qualified for the nationals 2 times, should have been 3 times. My senior year, I was ranked as high as number 8 in the nation. I took second at University Nationals for freestyle, and I was top 12 in the nation for NCAA. So I lost to David Douglas from Arizona to place in the blood round. So then I stayed on and coached wrestling at UC Davis while I started my MMA career. And I think a lot of people may not know this, but 2003 when I started, it was literally illegal in most states, in California included. So all my fights had to be on Indian casinos because of the legality of things. So that was the way it was when I started. It was like a wild, wild west, man. I was wearing shoes. You could knee guys in different positions. You could probably kick to the head at that time. There's a lot of stuff you could do. And my fights were on Indian reservations. $200 a show, $200 a win.
So then you went straight into pro, right? So you didn't have an amateur career as in mixed martial art. You went straight into pro on an Indian reservation, making $200 a pop, 200 to show, 200 to win.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to call that pro, we didn't have an amateur. It was not established like it is now. So that's why I get a lot of credit for being a pioneer. Is a lot of that's by chance. One of the guys that was dumb enough to be pursuing a path with no real future. It was like, what are you doing, man? There's no weight. The closest weight class to the UFC is 170 pounds. UFC, I only had 3 events a year. The guys that were winning it weren't making shit for money. And here I was, college graduate, excited about this pathway to become a martial artist for a career, and just having fun, really. That was kind of the key.
Well, that seems like a very interesting transition, right? So you're in college, you do your first amateur/pro fight on the Indian reservation. And did you go to a gym, or because I feel like there's a huge mysterious cloud, because you're in college, you go and do your MMA combat, and then where does this team Alpha Male, this gym, come from? Like, I feel like you built a dynasty, an organization, or a massive gym while competing at the very beginning of your career. Like, how did that happen, essentially?
So, see a need, feel a need. that's kind of the way it was. It was like I was coaching wrestling at the time at UC Davis. I stayed on as an employee. I was making like, I think like $8,000 a year as a full-time employee for 10 months out of the year as a wrestling coach. So I started coaching kids, doing wrestling clinics. I was working, busting tables, and basically working my butt off, funding my own passion, which is to do the fight thing. So there was no big gyms. There was no real pathway. And so I think in 2006 started the first gym, and I had an investor who was my 50% partner. He put up the money. I was the guy that ran it. I was running the front desk, teaching the classes just before anybody knew who I was, really. I'd just been on the local circuit, Gladiator Challenge, Communication. So I had a small following with that, but guys that I was managing, helping to coach, and my teammates at the time were like guys like Scott Smith and James Irvin, who are in the UFC. And so I didn't even put my name on the gym. And when I first opened it was just Ultimate Fitness because no one really knew who I was. And I started my management company around the same time. So I helped manage guys like Chael Sonnen and Anthony Pettis and my whole team of guys, Chad and Joseph, and a ton of different names, Scotty Jorgensen, a bunch of people that you would know, Mark Munoz, that, I helped get into the sport, a lot of those guys, so I was kind of just like having a great time and wanted to spread the enthusiasm, spread the love, and share what I was doing. And I put that first gym together, and that was the beginning of like what is now a super gym. My gym at the time was 8,000 square feet, which was huge. We had boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, jiu-jitsu. We had, an in-house chiropractor who was my partner, and that turned into later Ultimate Fitness, URIJAH FABER's Ultimate Fitness, Team Alpha MMA, which is 40,000 square feet and hosts fighters from all over the world. So it was a long journey, but started with just passion, man.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This podcast is sponsored by only best energy drink out in the world, and that is GFUEL. Ladies and gentlemen, you can try GFUEL by going to GFUEL.com, use my promo code MIGHTY, and I'll save you 20% on GFUEL. My favorite flavor is the Mega Man Blueberry Sushi, but this flavor right here, which is called Blue Ice. Now, when you're taking the GFUEL, I like to take when I work out and then lift weights. You're getting that extra energy pump. You're getting the focus, and you're also getting the caffeine. That's where energy comes from. And the cool thing about taking GFUEL, it comes with multivitamins in that bad boy, so there's no crash when you get off of that energy spike. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, if you want to try GFUEL, go to gfuel.com, use my promo code MIGHTY. That will save you 20% on your complete order. Ladies and gentlemen, shout out to GFUEL for sponsoring this podcast. Let's get back to the content. Woo! Well, so like when you went to college, what was your background? Was your background in like management, financing? Like who opened your eyes to doing that? Like I feel like you had to be guided or see somebody or have like people who inspire you to build a dynasty, build a gym like that, because I couldn't imagine, just graduating college, trying to fight, also trying to manage everybody, bring people in the sport, and also building your brand. Like that's a lot of shit to handle, but you were able to do it.
Yeah, I don't know the exact answer to that. I think the biggest thing is it's a lot like fighting, just being fearless, seeing like a need for something and just being like, well, fuck it, I'm going to do it, And so I bought my first house before the economy crashed because I literally, I had no business buying a house in 2005 or whatever, but I had a buddy who was like, yeah, I can help you get a loan. I was making like $12,000 a year.
Wow.
And bought my first house, moved in all my buddies, which ended up being in the block because I bought another house next to that, another house next to that. I was just kind of stumbling through, just being fearless and creative and seeing a need and feeling a need, which is turned into entrepreneurship at its finest. And even if I look back at Alpha Male, I first did it as clothing. It was Alpha Male clothing. you know, dominant by nature, nature's choice. You know, that was kind of like what I had started. And then I did a licensing deal. I didn't even know it was a licensing deal. I had a good buddy that was on the football team, and he was like, bro, I love these shirts. He's like, let me make the football ones. I'll put up the money for the football ones, and I'll give you split the money with you. And I'm like, okay. So I basically did a licensing deal before I even knew what the fuck that was. And I had a football team wearing alpha male football shirts, and I had a guy that was in charge of that. Like, I was just fucking around and having fun, man. And then got more dialed in as years have gone by.
I love that. Man, I did a license deal. I didn't even know it was a license deal. It brings you back to Kanye West. Man, you know us black folks can't read these fucking contracts. We don't know what we signing. I love that. Now, you built, you had the biggest stars, not just in the UFC, but also in WEC. You had Chad Mendes, Joseph Benavidez, Scott Jurgensen. At one point, you're managing him, Mark Munoz. What did you see in all these guys that made the team so special? You had TJ Dillashaw at one point. I mean, you still got Touchy-Feely. You got your gym is building and still in one of the top gyms around the world. What do you think makes it so special and keeps you guys at such a high level?
It starts from the top down with attitude, intention, and the culture, which is really hard to keep. I mean, you mentioned guys like TJ Dillashaw. He won the championship with us, and there's all the drama, this and that. But it's hard to deal with all these big personalities and guys that are, in a lot of ways very selfish, but as they should and can be in this sport. It's an individual sport, so there's a lot of trial and errors, ups and downs. But it's going back to the culture of things and treating people as equals and inspiring people to think big and to enjoy the journey and to stay positive and work their butts off. These are all things that are written on the wall. Team Alpha MMA, Team Alpha Male is think big, work hard, stay positive, enjoy the journey. That's like our motto. And the ups and downs are tough. Like, you feel like you're getting stabbed in the back, your neck stepped on at times. But if you keep to the core of it, of finding good people, like now we have like a Song Yidong and Yanzan Yao from China, and Slav Abortion from Russia, and Ricardo Ramos from Brazil, and Macy Barber from Denver, and we've got Corey McKenna from the UK, and it's just we attract people that enjoy being around the positivity and want to work their butts off. And I've also given a lot of I guess it would be like autonomy, where people get to have a big say in what they want to do, because we're adults. I'm not paying these people to be here. They're not in my school, and I can like kick them out for bad grades or not showing up. It's like, I want to be here, and I'm just trying to foster and say, hey, look, I'm here to help you get as good at fighting as possible with any resource that you can, to stoke the fire of your ambition, and to help build your spirit and build your belief in yourself. And it works. We've got Song Yidong and Yanzan Yao and Josh Emmett, Macy Barber, all in the top 10 that are breathing down the neck of world championships. We had 2 losses for the world championship recently with Josh Emmett and Yanzan Yao, but we also have Song, who, in my opinion, is a guy that's going to be a world champion very soon. And we have Macy that's just breathing down the neck of the girls there. So it's exciting, man. That's the people you know of. The people you don't know of, those are the guys that you have to watch out for, the girls that you have to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you miss it? Like, you're around all these athletes who are top 10, ready to get a championship, a title fight. Do you miss it? Because I never forget when we talked to each other in Colorado, you're like, man, I miss it. But at the same time, there has to be that fine line, because we have a short amount of time where we could be an athlete, right? Because, we're all getting older. The clock is ticking for us. And when you said that to me, I was like, man, he is right. We only have a short amount of time to be an athlete at a professional level and compete. And when I hear you speak and you're talking about all these amazing athletes you have underneath your wing, underneath the gym, when you see them get ready for their training camp and for their fights, does it ever running through your mind like, damn it, maybe, I'm about to be 45 this year. I'm going to do Jiu-Jitsu combat, and, maybe I should lace up the gloves and jump back in that UFC octagon ring and get a fight in?
I every once in a while, but the one thing that's real is that, as you age, you get less durable. And, and for me, my body feels intact, but I know that taking a punch is not what it used to be. I used to see guys get rocked in fights and be like, how has that happened to them? You know what I mean? And then I've experienced it a couple times, and most recently my last fight when I was 40 against Peter Yan, where I wouldn't fathom that whatever he hit me with would do much to me back in the day, But at 40 against a world-class guy, you're more likely to get rocked by it. So that's a risk you take. You're also better at 40 if you've been on the path I have, which has been teaching, mentoring, staying at the gym. You're a better fighter. You have more knowledge. You have more experience. You have more skills if you're doing it correctly. But it's that fine balance between, Mother Nature, Father Time, and where the balance is between durability and skill set. If aging weren't a thing, the 89-year-old sensei would be the baddest man on the planet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Master Tong would probably fucking be winning all that money and go to the casino and blowing it like, it's okay, I'm good. I'll beat everybody.
Yeah, that's right. But no, I get this. And when I came out of retirement, most interesting to me was the thing that I missed and enjoyed the most without thinking about it. I didn't realize it until I got back into it, was the weight cut.
Really?
I enjoyed the punishment of wanting to compete, which is having to be extremely strict. You enjoy water. Food tastes so much better. You're like, oh my gosh, like a banana. Wow. You can appreciate it. A sip of ice cold water is like, heaven sent at moments. And so, it makes you appreciate things. And that's something that I have to kind of retest now as intermittent fasting or doing some things that you don't want to do that test yourself. I like that part of life. And I think I took that lesson in coming out of retirement.
Okay. I want to switch gears. You're a father, you have 2 beautiful children. Now, do you ever see any of your kids following in your path and wrestling and then eventually fighting?
I would always say I prefer no, but I think my daughter is inclined. Like she's got she's a brute. She's got solid as a rock muscle. She's in phenomenal shape for no reason. She's always accidentally hurting her mom. She's like a headbutt or elbow away from, putting the girl, hurting her mom at any moment. So, I could see her really doing well at it. My son strikes me as a guy that's going to be an engineer, a builder, a musician. That's what I get from my observation of him right now. But I'm not going to really encourage it per se to pursue this as a career. But I would obviously not be a naysayer if that was their passion. I'm all about people following their passions and doing their thing. But right now, I'm just, trying to get that mentality in their head that they can do anything they want, make them, confident, and have that self-belief, and they'll figure all that out.
Okay. I want to talk about your greatest rivalry in your career that I actually enjoyed watching. I enjoyed to watch all your fights. You versus the Dominator Cruz. I felt like you guys, for me, paved the path for me. A lot of people who are new to the sport don't really know that. I would work full-time at the construction factory making sonic tubes, and I would rush home to watch WC Wreckage, and it was always Team Alpha Boys, you, Jose Benavidez, Chad Mendes, and then your war against Dominic Cruz. Obviously, it wasn't a war the first time. You ended up choking him out in the first round, I believe it is. And then you guys ended up fighting in the UFC, and then you guys fought 3 times, correct?
Yeah. 3
times. Talk to me about that rivalry between you two, because I talked to Dom. We actually all 3 were just hanging out with each other at the UFC at the UFC Apex Center when it was doing the 30th greatest athletes in 30 years in the UFC. Talk to me about that. relationship, fighting him, building up the fights. And then now you guys have worked together on doing some promo for the UFC.
Yeah, it's been cool, man. Dom is a guy that I didn't think much of, but earned my respect over the years. And he came in a kind of a brash, like rude kid who I had to spank real quick. And then he went through and fought his way back, and used that as motivation and really took things up a notch. And so I respect that about him a lot. There's some real moments where we absolutely did not like each other. Some moments where it was like a truce, and then we go back to, not liking each other. But at the end of the day, I feel like, I would consider him a friend and somebody that I look at as a pillar in our community. But it was fun for me. As you know, I was friends with everybody, so I didn't have any enemies. So I had like an open door policy, like Scotty Jorgensen, Brian Bowles, like Eddie Wineland, the Pettis brothers came over. It was like whoever wanted to come train, you come train. Like we may fight, you may not, but I was buddies. So having a real enemy for me was a nice change of tune. I'm like, yeah, you want to be enemies? Let's go. And so that's kind of the story of it, really.
Well, I've always loved that about you. You've always had a good, positive outlook and everything in mixed martial arts, right? Like I remember you would have all these guys come and train with you, and potentially they could be fighting you or guys that you're training, right? Like Sergio Pettis, Anthony Pettis, Brian Bowles, like you said, and you've always been good about that. And I felt like that's always been inspiring for new coaches now who build the gym. Like, just be open policy, because at the end of the day, we're just trying to make sure every athlete gets the best training and make as much money as possible. So I've always appreciated that about you. Even when we hung out, granted we weren't in the same division, but I fought Joseph multiple times, and it was still nothing but love. Even when I talked to Joseph today, we were still like, hey, do you remember Coldplay? That was a good concert, right? It was a great, great concert.
Yeah, Joseph's salt of the earth, man. I love that guy. And for me, that takes confidence to be able to do that. You got to know that when you walk into a room, no matter what, you're going to be the baddest dude. And so if you start getting like protective of this, protective of that, it's not, hey, is this your long lost brother? Come here, Tyler. This is my boy right here.
Oh man, he's my pigment. I don't know. Hey, has he bald too?
You guys are two handsome dudes right there, my man. That's my boy Tyler. We're here for an EO retreat. So all these guys, I learn and get inspired from all these guys. You guys are all heavy hitter business guys, and I've been in this group for like 11 years and learning a lot. But it's kind of the same idea. Like, I had nothing to hide. I don't have a secret move. Like, my move is you can't stop me. That was it. And when it comes to game plan, you can't make a great game plan until you're really good at everything. You got to be good at wrestling and good at jiu-jitsu, good at boxing, good at kickboxing. The game plan is going to be pretty similar if you've got huge holes in your game. So I was always about like, look, dude, like, iron sharpen iron. If we need to, not be around each other and do shit secret at some point, fine. But I'm not afraid to show my skill set to anybody. And I go to gyms just like you going to compete. Like, oh, why would Demetrious Johnson, one of the best guys on the planet, hands down, go and give the common jiu-jitsu player a chance to get some clout? Because we don't give a fuck. We're nothing to protect, man. I know I'm badass. You know what I mean? You know you're badass. Like, it's not about that, it's about competing. It's about being humble. It's about letting other people be inspired, putting yourself on the same level as people, not above people. That's been a big winner for me.
Preach, man. Preach. I love it. You couldn't say that any better. I think a lot of people do like scratch their head like, dude, why are you doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Nagi? And I'm like, because I want to. I find it fun. I find it challenging. And why not, right? Like, as you know, as we get older, our bodies don't last. The durability is just gone. Right? Even when in training camp, I'm always getting injured. I'm like, man, I don't want to keep getting hit in the face. I want to focus on building my brand. That way, 5 to 6 years, I can continue to keep on building my brand in the YouTube and the podcast. But every once in a while, I can suit up, go through a training camp, in jiu-jitsu, go out there, compete, get 7 to 6 matches, depending on if I win my bracket and want to do open and whatnot. And it's just absolutely fun. And even the dieting, like when you said, man, I miss the dieting. I don't miss dieting. I love eating. It pisses me off when I was like, oh, what weight class you gonna go? You gonna go 141? I was like, absolutely not. I'm going 154, boy. You call me a thick ass boy. And I love it. And I just like, when you're like, oh, I missed the dieting, I was like, something's wrong with Uriah.
One question I had for you, Uriah, I just want people to understand, and I'm not just saying this because you're on here. Back in the day when you had that WEC run, Uriah Faber was like a mythical fighter. I mean, I think your record was maybe 21-1. You only had a Tyson Griffin loss that was years before that. What do you think was the key to that run where you were just dominating guys and you were, at that point, really pound for pound one of the top fighters in the world?
Well, first was, it wasn't like today. When you become a superstar, it's not like a Cody Garbrandt who goes from virtually unknown to the king of the world. I was the best guy in the world, but the sport hadn't caught up. So still having to be humble and grind was a big part of that. It was easy not to lose focus. It wasn't like tons of money in the bank and fucking, paparazzi or anything like that. It was just you had a title, which, I mean, it was pretty big, but not like it is now. So for me, it was ultimate focus. And that's what I tell these guys now. And we had the privilege of having Lee Kemp as a coach on our team, who's one of the best American wrestlers of all time. And that was his advice. He said, you have to go all in. And that's what it was. It's, as the money stays low, you need that cash, you need to be focused, etc. As time goes on and more opportunities come, more talent comes, more people get focused, more people go all in. But I was one of the first guys to go all in without a bright future. I was all in from day one with zero stability in the future of the sport, which is rare. It takes a dreamer, a delusional fucking guy to be doing that, but I was in. And so I think that was an advantage. And I've got some gifts as an athlete, obviously a strong mentality. And then of course that wrestling background was key for me. And I was a late starter wrestler, which, at the age of 13, you got TJ Dillashaw, Cody Garbrandt, Chad Mendes. They started wrestling at 4, 5, 6, all year round. I was the guy that was getting my butt kicked by those guys and had to do double the work to catch up by the end of my college career, which I did-ish. I did to Cody and TJ. Chad was a national finalist, so didn't quite catch him. But I was, I had done well in the NCAAs as a senior. But for me, I was doubling down on the work ethic because I was playing catch up, and then I kept that up. And it starts, I say this all the time, which is important. The luckiest thing in the world that an athlete can get that you don't choose is obsession. If you become obsessed with something, that trumps hard work. It trumps natural talent. It puts aside like the part of the things that you can control. Obsession is uncontrollable. You can't stop thinking about it. If you can couple that, I think of BJ Penn when he described his run at the Jiu-Jitsu world, where he said, I was obsessed. I was at night thinking this goes to this, goes to this. And he goes, I couldn't, get it out of my mind. And he became a world champion in 3 years. If you can couple that obsession with good regimen and good work ethic, and when the obsession goes away, you still have the other pieces intact and you gained all that ground during the obsessive time, you're in a good place. If you're lazy by nature and you don't get that other stuff dialed in, and the obsession was the only thing for you, it's probably not going to go well at the end. So I feel like I had the obsession and was dialed in when the obsession wore off, where I was good enough to compete,
right?
Disciplined enough to compete, and was able to chase the strap for 8 years, even though it wasn't always the most important thing in my life.
Well, I never thought about that. Like when you said that, when you jumped into mixed martial arts, there was no, like you said earlier in the show, the lightest weight class was 170 pounds. Right?
Yeah.
And there was no 135, 145. You find Japan and Shuto, there was really no money in that. And then you really didn't get discovered by, Japan because you're an American athlete. So I feel the obsession, the passion, and the drive is what made you so damn good and dominant. That way, when you got to the point where you became a household name with the Amp Energy, WC Wreckage, and all that stuff, and even transferred to UFC, you were so damn good. You had no holes. Where for me, when I look at what people do nowadays in mixed martial arts, is that you have all these, oh man, there's a 125-pound class, there's 135, 145. They don't build that obsession. They don't go through that poor man sport where it's like, okay, well, where should I train? Where should I start? They always want to just be a professional athlete right off the get-go, where for you and for me, we didn't have that opportunity. It was like, hey, we're passionate about this. We're obsessed with it. I can go from wrestling and, I can actually punch this guy in the face. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do a couple amateur fights. You're fighting on an Indian burial ground. And that's why I felt like it made our skill set so much bigger than today. Like, don't get me wrong. You have some guys who grow up, who are 5 or 6 years old, who doing jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, kickboxing. But I feel like when they get to 18, 19, they don't have the same love for it as we did, because we did it because it was a passion and we were obsessed with it, right? Like, it's kind of, I feel kind of bad saying that, but that's what I see now when I look at the younger generation who haven't made it to like the bigger platforms of the UFC and One Championship and PFL and LFA, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I mean, it's really very individual, but like you said, like, there was no, like, at the time when we started, there wasn't a Conor McGregor that had the Bentley and was world famous, and no one was that famous. I mean, to us who were obsessed with it, like on the underground forums or whatever, we know who was who. But like, now the dream of being rich and famous is like, that's a reality for us. It was just like an inner desire to show that you're the baddest on the planet. I still feel like there's guys out there with that, but it is much different in my opinion. But you got to have that, like the guys that, and I could see it in my room, the guys that are so driven and they have this internal desire to show that they're the baddest man on the planet. So I feel like it's still out there, but that was our only choice. There wasn't options back then for us.
Yep, I agree. Okay, here's a question that comes to mind. So typically in your gym, it's mixed martial arts, right? It's all MMA, but every once in a blue moon, you have somebody go off the rails. I'm talking about your good boy, Chad Mendes. He decided to do some bare knuckle fighting. One, when he presented that to you, what was your first thoughts? And what do you think about, obviously he retired from that, but when he brought that to you to do bare knuckle fighting, what was the first thing that went through your mind?
Well, first off, Chad was happily retired, making good money as an influencer and running his business. I think we actually, as a management team, brought that to him.
Really?
He was like, what? He was like, wait, how much? What? Because one of the reasons Chad retired, because, he's a college educated guy too. He went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. He understands business. And he was like, at the time, he was like, what I'm getting paid is not worth it. He's like, I should go do something else. So when there was an opportunity to make some real good money in bare knuckle, which, was maybe 4 or 5 times what he'd be guaranteed to fight in UFC. He was like, wait, so tell me again, like, I fight somebody for 10 minutes when it's just boxing and I just focus on getting good at boxing. He's like, guy's already built like a fucking brick shit house and like it would hurt you to hit Chad.
Yep.
So he was like, did the math. It was like, yeah, that sounds like a good time. I mean, Chad is known for getting in a brawl back in his day in college too, so he's not afraid of a little bare knuckle. But so he was excited for it, and it was a new thing. And then the second one, he said he wasn't going to do it again. He's like, this is one off 100%. And he was like, I'm never going to do it again. And they came back and they were like, but how about this? And he's like, yeah, it sounds like a good time again. So I still feel like he's up for grabs when it comes to a good opportunity, because the guy's tough as shit, and he's a guy that's not afraid to do anything. And I thought, yeah, it's all good. I'm not, I'm a fan of the bare knuckle, but I like mixed martial arts better. Like especially for my style. My style doesn't translate great to a bare knuckle. I don't think it's more of being tactical and tricky and aggressive and in great shape. That to me is like a fucking sprint of brutality. And, you could do it, but you have to pay me a lot, and you have to be with the right opponent.
I don't really. It's a sprint of brutality. Well, I find it when he did that, I was like, okay, this is dope. It's something out of nowhere. And when he fought Eddie Alvarez, I was there live, and I was like, this is sick. It's crazy. And I feel like in today's world in combat sports, you have so many guys doing different things that come from a mixed martial art background. You look at Luke Rockhold. He just did the karate combat. You look at, Mike Perry. He's killing it in bare knuckle fighting. So is John Dodson. And then you have me. I'm doing IBJJF and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You're about to do combat Jiu-Jitsu. So I think it's a good time in an athlete's career to explore and make money doing different things, where back in the day, if you wanted to make good money, you would have to be in one of these bigger promotions, right? Like if you're not in the UFC, you ain't make good money. But you look at Sergio Pettis, he's fighting in, he's about to fight Kyojo Horiguchi in Ryzen. You look at Mike Perry, he just cleared 600 bills. Chad Mendes, he's cleared, I don't know what he made, but if the math is correct, what you said, he made more money doing bare knuckle fighting for 10 minutes, sprint brutality.
He made a lot of money. The second fight with Eddie, he made great cash on that one too. So, and then you got Pettis boxing Roy Jones Jr. We got Diaz and Masvidal. There's a lot of ways to skin this out. We got Mike Tyson coming out of the woodworks. Like there's a lot of ways to have some fun and make some money if you're not scared and you've spent your life getting good at stuff. So I always keep that in consideration. That's why I still stay in the drug pool with UFC. I still get drug tested because I don't do drugs and figure just in case something pops up, But yeah, it's a good time right now, and I think there's great opportunities. And I want to talk about this a little bit. Have you seen the robot that I've got going?
Yes, I have. Tell us about it. I saw
you get you one. I got to get you one of those robots, dude. You will love that thing.
Please send me one, because I got my son one of those dummies and he broke the arm of it. He tore the arm completely off. So tell me about this robot and send me one. Tell us, folks.
This robot. So the robot, we haven't even really been trying to sell them right now. You have to sign an NDA if you buy one. You're part of the work in progress because we're still making improvements to it, but it's got joints that dislocate. It holds position. I would say like a mid-level purple belt. Like I would rather go with a robot than a white belt for sure, or even a low-level blue belt, because it holds position correctly. It's got choke sensors, so you can do a light. The perfect choke is a fatality. There's a flat line to send you to the hospital, which okay choke. Choke with. And then we sent one out to Connor. He fucking loves it. And this thing, like you can float it. I'll send you some videos. I'll text it to you of my boy Sam. He's been cooped up in his house for 7 years, got off all social media. Do you remember the company that had Optical Panacea, where we did all those crazy pictures of like all the stars in the sport doing like crazy stuff in cool places. So Sam used to be that guy, and he's been building this thing in his house for like 7 years. Writing code, building 3D printers, fucking doing all this different stuff. And now it's down to a science, and it's fucking awesome, bro. You're going to trip out. You're going to love this thing.
Yes, please send it, because I saw you guys working with it a little bit in here, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But it can actually, tell you about the dislocating the joints, and also let you know where, like, okay, this is fatality. Like you would have killed this person, or they would have choked out, passed out.
Yeah, it's like if you get the choke perfect, it's you kill the person. Then there's like a hospital, like, hey, let me go. But anyways, it's fucking bad. And so we just built a factory in Sacramento, about 4 minutes from my house. Yep. And so we're getting ready for mass production. We're gonna do a crowdfunding so we can try to get the cost down, because right now it's pretty costly. Not bad for what's gone into it. I mean, everyone's custom made by Sam, and it's pretty fucking awesome. So yeah, the robotbjj.com, check that out. Get yourself on the wait list, because we're going to be sending them out for orders. Also, something that's really cool, and I know you you gave me a lot of credit, and I appreciate it. And I remember all sorts of combos we've had throughout the years, and just being buddies and being peers, and getting advice, giving advice, etc. The next phase of shit I'm working on is going to be next level. And when I'm thinking outside the box, like between the robot and now the combat university with Sac State that I'm doing, the first ever of its kind, and my real big vision, I want to explain it to you because I want you involved on some level. And I feel like even in California, we're the first one to do a pension for UFC fighters. I want my future plan to contribute to that in all sorts of different states, but I want a combat themed city center, and I'm working on that. And I want, a place to soup to nuts, get the sport where it needs to go, like football, baseball, basketball, soccer. You know how to get there. You go to the little league, then you go to the junior high, then you go to the high school, then you go to college, then you go to the draft, then you go to the minor league, whatever. There's like a real pathway. There's a real way to do it. So I want to help create that. And I started, years ago when I had the MMA draft, the MMA combines that we had like 6 of them. But this new level of vision that I have is going to be a game changer, bro. And I'm telling you, I already talked to DC about it. I talked to Tim Kennedy a little bit about it, to Pettis, and I'd like to get, Holly Holm, Bones Jones, the people that are, Poirier and DC and Louisiana, and Wonder Boy and Weidman out where they're at, Frankie out in Jersey or whatever it is. And I want to create like a real pathway to a plan for kids from 4 all the way through pro, semi-pro, to get to the big leagues. So I'm working on that now, and I'll have more details soon, but it's going to be pretty awesome. I've got my A1 combat fights. It's going to be kind of tied into it. I've got the combat university, Sac State's program. It's the first university-backed combat program with scholarships and help with admissions and visas and that kind of stuff. So I'm making these little steps towards the next level of shit. And I told Dana a little bit about it. He has a lot going on, so I'm sure it was just like, oh yeah, cool, good luck. I'm telling you.
Well, I love that, because we have a guy in our gym right now. Would you just explain, ladies and gentlemen, our listeners, that's how it is. There is no path. Like if you want to play in NFL, okay, you start doing Pee-wee, or you play in middle school or high school, you go to college, you get drafted. That's pretty much the same thing with basketball, same with baseball. That is kind of like the stepping stone to make it to the big leagues. In mixed martial arts, there is no yellow brick road that's going to lead you to the castle. There just isn't, right? Like I started when I was 18. I kept on fighting amateur. And then luckily, Matt Hume, he had connections with people in Alaska. I went to Alaska, knocked out Jesse Brock, got spotted by, WEC by Sean Shelby on the Fight Network, which isn't around anymore. Inside Fighter HD Net by Bass Rutten. I can't remember the other gentleman who ran the show. Then that's what got me my opportunity in WEC. But if that show was never around and I never got spotted, then I would never be in this position today. So I feel even to today's age, I have a guy in the gym. His name is Brandon. He can't get a fight to save his life. And he's like, man, I want to fight at the big leagues, but how do I get there? How do I make that connection? So I think what you're doing, trying to build that stepping stone to show people like, hey, this is what you do. If your son is passionate, has obsession, and you want to guide him into the big leagues, this is how you go from point A all the way to point Z, Z being one of the bigger promotions in the world of mixed martial arts. So I think that's absolutely amazing. And I'll love to be involved with that, because I feel that is what's missing in our sport. And obviously, down the line with, being unionized as athletes, be able to get more of a rev share of like, if a company's doing, $4 billion in a year of revenue and the athletes are getting, 1% of that, if that, then there has to be a bigger split. And that's why I think they might have those stepping stones, because there's such a bigger rev split for the athletes in the union. I'm not sure, but that's what my gut's telling me right now.
Yeah. I look at this whole thing because, obviously there was just that class action suit, which, props to the guys that spent their their time, energy, and effort doing that, but they got martyred out of it. You know, they got they spent a lot of time on negativity for the greater good, which I appreciate. But for me, I took a different approach, which is just focus on me and focus on doing what I can control, and looking at where there's ways to build off of what opportunities I do have. And so, you know, a different animal, but there'll be some changes there, I'm sure. But this next thing, I mean, the vision is to get people like yourself and like some of the names I named really rewarded. And it doesn't have to, it can align with the UFC, it can align with ONE FC, it can be an asset to them, and even an acquisition target for them when it really pans out. Imagine that you have, just imagine this, because this is the vision. You have a combat themed city center like you have in any big city. In El Dorado Hills, we have one. In Folsom, we have one. In Sacramento, you know, there's a Palladio in Folsom that has restaurants and grocery stores and a movie theater and the bowling alley and like all, you know, whatever. So imagine small arenas, you know, 3,000 to 5,000 person arenas that are the hub for fostering jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, judo, the combination. That's the place you go for clinics, for camps, for competitions. There's a gym and a performance institute there. If you're the rich kid that has the access to it, there's you know, retail there. There's mixed use housing and there's hotels and everything else. And then you have those in major cities where, you know, you get to develop yourself as an athlete. Like, where do I go? You go to the district for combat and you get your kids signed up in this. You get them signed up for that. You get them in the competition and the cream rises to the top and it culminates in a, like A1 Combat's my flight organization in Sacramento or in California. You know, Pettis is in Milwaukee. You have Masvidal's in Florida, whatever it is. And maybe it's not. You get Ed to do LFA or whatever it may be, or maybe it's we all unify, and then you feed to a minor league that feeds to the big leagues, and then you have a draft, you have a combine, you have all this kind of stuff, and you can have local owners because the owners now have, like, my fight team is not something that a savvy investor would want to invest in. Where are the hard assets? Where's the real estate? Where's the cash flow? Where's the this? Where's the that? So you create that. Then you get guys that think it's cool to own a fight team. And now you raised, you know, then you get Elon Musk and Zuck that each own their own fight team. And it makes sense to them because they got real estate assets. They got this and that. And then you got a college program with college programming that's on ESPN. And so you're building these athletes. Like, that's what I'm trying to work on.
See, you're always building something. You know what I mean? This is why I've always, like, was inspired by you. Like, like you, Anthony Pettis, each time I talk to you guys are always building something, buying some shit, building shit. And I'm just like, man, I feel like I'm fucking slacking. I'm just sitting here just trying to be the best in the world. You motherfuckers are making all this money. You don't even need to fight. And that idea says absolutely amazing because the guys you just mentioned, Jorge Masvidal, Anthony Pettis, they do have their own organization. I think Anthony Pettis' thing is streamed on UFC Fight Pass. So that's
mine's on Fight Pass too.
Yeah, you see, like you guys are doing these little steps right now for the greater good of the beginning stages of somebody's career in mixed martial arts. You guys are already setting those pebble stones down now. That way it's going to be easier for those guys to make it that leap into the bigger stage, which me and you never had. So
yeah.
Ooze to you, my friend.
Here's something to think about. And this is like, look, being an entrepreneur, I understand the struggles. Like, I remember, you know, there's been like 16 or 17 gyms that were either my ex-members, ex-employees, ex-teammates, instructors, whatever, that have gone done their thing. Like, business is tough and everybody always thinks the grass is greener and there's a lot more money than there is and this and that. So I can appreciate what Dana, Lorenzo, and Frank Fertitta went through and understand that they built something big and they invested in a lot of money and time and they invested back in with the money they're making. But they're really, you know, building and building and building. So I have respect for that. So I'm happy if I get a check out of this whole thing. Fine.
I can't wait for mine. I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna go get me a new watch.
What I'm saying is, like, look, there's ways to skin the cat where we have this platform that they made a lot of profit on, but they also put a lot of infrastructure into that we benefited from. So I'm thinking outside the box. And I was just thinking, I talked about before Kraus got in trouble. I don't know what's up with Kraus now. I like Kraus. I haven't really been able to catch up with him since all the stuff went down with him, but he was a really good business guy, or savvy business guy, I should say. Had all sorts of hustles going, had a franchise, phone companies and real estate, was doing all sorts of cool stuff. And I was thinking, because I'm the guy, and we've had talks, and I've had talks with the Diaz bros, with Eddie, all the guys that are doing business in our sport. I feel like I have conversations with.
Yep.
And I'm the part of this group, EO. I think I need to maybe spearhead a business group similar to EO, where we all talk and discuss, business, because I learn a lot from this thing. It's a 5-hour commitment, 1 day a month, no phones, and with a bunch of peers in business. But if you take that, a qualifying criteria of the fighter from a business standpoint, and you create a group, I think it'd be pretty cool. So I'm gonna look into that too. That'd be a good idea.
Well, holla at your boy. Holla at your boy. Okay, one last thing, you're right, before we let you go. Thank you so much for giving us time. You're in the beautiful sunshine in Cabo. What was it like filming with Conor McGregor in Ultimate Fighter? And I'm so sad that fight never materialized, because typically when you do the Ultimate Fighter, you fight the coach, right? That's how it was back in the day for, you look at Chuck Liddell, Randy Couture, Rampage Jackson, Sugar Shabba Evans, GSP, Matt. Everybody who you coach against, you end up fighting. But for you and Conor never fought.
Yeah.
Would you have that? Why did that happen?
Well, I think with that, they needed somebody that could hang with Conor, like, in banter and clout at the time. And I don't think he had a peer at that time, really. I was the closest thing to that for him. I wanted that fight. There was a moment where he and I were bantering back and forth, like we were both trying to get the fight. Dana saying it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're 2 weight classes apart, or I think maybe 1 weight class at the time, but they're saying it's not going to happen. And so it was never put on the table except for when the Diaz fight happened. And I got called by Dana, and he said, like, hey, I know I said this is never going to happen, but it's the opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And I went through everybody. Aldo didn't want it. Diaz was in a dispute. I knew everybody. So he's like, oh yeah, it's you. And so I have connections with everybody. So I went and saw, like, why isn't it Frankie? Why isn't it Cowboy? Why isn't it Pettis? Why isn't it Aldo? Why isn't, whatever? Why me? And basically I was like a last resort. Dana was going to let me fight Conor, and it didn't happen because Conor wanted to fight Nate. But filming with Conor was fun. It started out with a little bit of tension. I was there with the intent of fighting him, even though they said it wasn't going to happen. But we became buddies in a way, and had a lot of fun giving each other shit, and walked away from that thing with I think respect for each other, and a good time, man. A lot of great stories, that's for sure.
That's what's up. Michael, before we let the king of California go, you got anything for my boy?
Yeah, actually wanted to ask about your division, your last division in the UFC, bantamweight division. We have Sean O'Malley versus Merab. That's probably going to be our next title fight. Who do you got in that matchup, just looking at it on paper?
Man, O'Malley is a special athlete, in my opinion. The thing that makes him so dangerous is being as long and lanky as he is, and as coordinated and as fast as he is. That's rare. And we see that with like a Sandhagen who's just a step behind. But I think O'Malley has like a little bit of the delusion and a little bit of the bravado that puts him a step ahead on that. But, you know, I think, and he's also, his grappling is underrated. Like the guys he trains with out in Arizona are fucking good. I've grappled with some of them, and it's been rough for me, you know, and I'm a good grappler. So I feel like people are underestimating him, but Merab is that wild card. He never looks good, ever. He just looks like a fucking badass. Like he just like marches forward. It's ugly in your face, and he drowns motherfuckers. And so I think he's shown durability and against everyone else in the world right now. I aside from Song Yadong, I would say O'Malley wins, but this might be the one matchup that you know is the kryptonite, because he can take a fucking punch like a motherfucker. He's awkward and unpredictable. He's tireless and relentless, and he loves to make fights ugly. And you know, I think Merab could get the upset there.
Yeah, that's what I told Henry when I was helping Henry. When I was in Arizona, I was helping Henry train for Aljo, and I was like, dog, I think Merab's a motherfucker, man. I think he's a way tougher fight than Aljo. And he goes, why? And I was like, because he doesn't stop. Like, he puts it in drive, and he just continues to go forward, mixing it up with the wrestling. And then when he ended up fighting Henry, I was like, there ain't no way in hell he gonna take Henry down. Ain't no way in hell. Henry's a Olympic gold medalist. He wants everybody in the world to know it. And then when Henry got taken down, I was like, oh my God, this man is out wrestling Henry. And then, you know.
But didn't he take Henry down too?
No, they didn't count it as a takedown. No.
Okay.
But, you know, but Merab's just on a different level with his pressure, the way he fights, how he makes it ugly. And he knows that. He was like, hey, if it was a straight kickboxing fight, I probably won't win. Or a straight wrestling match, I probably won't win. But this is MMA. I can mix all my tools together and get the job done. So I'm super excited about that fight when it gets made. And you better believe I'll be breaking it down.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, shoot. Who's the more finesse guy? Who's the more skilled guy? Like from a technical standpoint, I think definitely O'Malley. He's got tricks. He's got coordination. He's got an extra sense about fighting. But who's the fucking dog that will run through a wall? And you know, if he gets his hands on O'Malley, I think, you know, O'Malley is a guy that's a structurally sound guy. Like all these long guys, once you get through the structure, you're good. You know, It's like they're strong at the end of here or framed out or whatever. But you get past that, you're dealing with a skinny guy. And then, so the question is, Merab, can Merab get past the structure and get his hands on a little skinny guy and ragdoll him?
Yep. I agree with you. Uriah, thank you so much for giving us the time. This is your opportunity. The floor is yours. Let people know where they can find you. Stay up to date with all these amazing fucking things you got going on. This is your time to let people know where they can find it.
Yeah, we got a bunch of A1 Combat fights coming up. A1combat.com. That's my fight promotion. I'm fighting May 27th against Jeff Glover of Combat Jiu-Jitsu. I also have the robotbjj.com. You can check it out, Robot BJJ on Instagram. The thing's a trip, man. If you're a jiu-jitsu fanatic, you need one of these things. And, you know, URIJAH FABER on Instagram, Twitch or X or whatever it's called. Whatever it is. But, yeah, just my name, man. And keep out because I'll be making announcements. If you're a college-bound athlete who wants to pursue mixed martial arts, Sac State, the University of Sac State University is holding the first ever Combat U. 4 club teams, wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, and kickboxing, and a pro development and mixed martial arts class at my gym with the ability to get into our pro class with guys like Song Yadong and Josh Emmett and you know, Macy and the whole crew. Go to Sac State website and apply, guys, because it's the first of its kind. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a game changer. We're looking for great talent. There's scholarships. There's help with out-of-state tuition. There's help with visas. There's a lot of cool stuff.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much to URIJAH FABER for joining us on this beautiful day in Cabo on the MightyCast. If you're like this podcast, make sure you like, subscribe, but also hit the bell to know when we go live. I am your host, Demetrious Johnson, my co-host, Michael Wansover. Ladies and gentlemen, look out for the next one. Cheer! Well, damn. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back. This is the Mighty Recap. I like to call it the Mighty Recap. It's basically where we recap what we just talked to with our guests, and we just had URIJAH FABER on, the California King, California Kid. I like to call him the King because he's not a kid anymore. Man, I think the biggest thing that I've always enjoyed about URIJAH is how he's so positive and he's always doing big fucking things. Like, he's got all these things going on in Sacramento. He's going to compete in the combat jiu-jitsu. He's got a gym full of killers that fought for world titles and knocking on world title door and up-and-coming prospects. And he's in Cabo right now with a group of people learning about AI. Like, that's the one thing that always intrigues me about URIJAH, because he always talks about it as a brand. And I'll never forget, like, there was a point in time in both our career, we're both fighting. And I said, you know what, URIJAH? I said, you know, you might never become UFC champion, but you will go down as one of the best and biggest household names ever to grace mixed martial arts. And I understand why. He's an entrepreneur. I think this gentleman, he is a businessman at first, but his passion and his obsession is mixed martial arts and combat. And that was the thing that I truly enjoyed about talking to him, because I learned so much how he's just always constantly building things. And you could tell he's enjoying it, right? Like, he's enjoying retirement. He's still competing. Every time when it comes close to his birthday, he's always doing something. He's going to do combat jiu-jitsu. I think when he turns 46, I bet you we can see him in bare knuckle fighting. Just throwing it out there. If it happens, you heard it here first from me and Michael. I mean, like, absolutely amazing. Like, he's got so much shit going on.
No, and I mentioned it, kind of my thing with URIJAH FABER. I hope people who more recently got into MMA know how good that fucking dude was. Like, you obviously know better than anyone, because I'm 32 years old. So when I was kind of getting more into MMA and he had that stretch, like, if you just pull up his dog, he went undefeated from he lost September of 2005, and then he went undefeated and didn't lose again until November of 2008. And I remember that was a huge fucking upset at the time versus Mike Brown, who's now, of course, the huge coach, very successful coach right now. But at the time, that was a massive upset. But I just think with Faber, he was what really was one of the pioneers in, first of all, bringing those lower weight classes into UFC. Obviously, you were as well. But if it wasn't for Faber, I don't think Dana White's sitting there like, oh, I got to bring in a bantamweight division or featherweight. So I think he deserves that credit. I mean, when you were there, were you kind of looking up to him as someone who's like, this dude is just a problem? How many fucking fights? He's just dominating people.
Oh, yeah. And that span of time when you said from 2005 to 2008, I believe it wasn't like, you know, 1 or 2 fights in a year. He was fighting like 3 to 4 times, because back in the day when it was like WC, those earlier times in fighting in the Indian ground, like, they were running it, man. Like he said, it was a obsession, it was a passion, and those guys would fight so many times because you weren't making a lot of money. And then for me, you know, that was the team. That he was the man, ladies and gentlemen. It was him, Chad Mendes, Joseph Benavidez, Tito Dillashaw. Team Alpha Male was the premier team in mixed martial arts at one point in time, right? Like, I think that's probably the longest reigning team in mixed martial arts, right? Like, if you look at, you know, the Black Zillions, you look at Kill Cliff, you look at fucking, you know, I don't know all of them. You look at Trevor Whitman's team. Team Alpha Male has been there from the very, very beginning in the infancy stage, having guys from, you know, like I said, Joseph Benavidez, all the way up to, you know, they have Sage Northcutt, Sonia Dong, Mark Munoz. I mean, I don't know a lot of the heavyweights, but that was a team that specialized in the lower weight division. WC, being inducted into, you know, being absorbed by the UFC. That's how I got to the UFC, was these guys paving the way in WC. I got into WC in 2010.
No, I wish I asked you about or brought this up on the podcast, that while Faber was there. So your WEC debut was April 24th, 2010. That was actually Jose Aldo versus Uriah Faber. So that was your debut, which, am I mistaken, was that the first WEC pay-per-view?
That was the first WEC pay-per-view where Sean Shelby, Dana White, and Joe Silva were actually at the hotel. That's where I met Uriah Faber the first time, and Jose Aldo. It was the very, very first pay-per-view, and I fought Brad Pickett, and you also had...
you lost, what the fuck?
Yeah, I lost. Yeah, I know. I broke my hand in the first round, man, and you fucking wrestled me, man.
Excuse. No, that's crazy.
No, it was...
yes, you have had, what, 4 losses? That was one of them. That's crazy.
Yeah. I broke my hand in the first round, but he was so good about wrestling. He had a beautiful jump on lead left hook. But that was also the fight card where Korean Zombie made his big name. I forget the gentleman he fought. It was a Mexican guy, Garcia. I forget his first name. What's his name?
Yeah, so holy shit, this is a fucking stacked card when you go through it. Chad Mendes was the fight before you. Anthony Pettis was the fight after you. And then, yes, 2 fights after you was Leonard Garcia versus Korean.
Garcia.
They had fucking I'm pretty sure they fought again, right? But
they fought again. I think
UFC.
Korean Zombie finished him with a twister.
Yeah.
But imagine that card was so stacked. Chad Mendes, Anthony Pettis, me, Uriah Faber, Jose Aldo, Korean Zombie, Leonard Garcia. Like, that right there would sell on a pay-per-view. Like, the time of filming this thing, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to go into UFC 301. It is, April? Yeah, April 29th. That WEC card, the first pay-per-view, blows out UFC 301's card, right? I mean, you think about, I just named 7 of the athletes on the card of WEC compared to UFC 301. I just felt like that time of the WEC, like, you have those big names. It just made, like, once again, Uriah Faber was one of those pioneers who spearheaded us getting absorbed by the UFC, and that's what brought, Jose Aldo, me, Miguel Torres, Brian Bowles, Chad Mendes, all of us to the UFC. And then without that, you never had, Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor, or Chad Mendes versus Conor McGregor, me versus Kid Yamamoto or Miguel Torres or Dominic Cruz. I mean, so much from him having an obsession and fighting, and not just him, but all the other athletes as well. But I feel like he was the man. I never forget going home, watching him shadow wrestle for Amp Energy. That was the old school energy drink that they had back in the day. But he is truly one of the pioneers and will go down in the Hall of Fame. I believe he is in the Hall of Fame in the UFC. But I feel like they need to make a Hall of Fame. I'm waiting for Ariel Helwani to make that Hall of Fame for just mixed martial arts in general, because there's so many great guys who never stepped foot in the octagon that deserve credit for paving the way for mixed martial arts and how big it is in today's age right now.
I mean, and Anderson Silva was just inducted this year, and you're not in it, so I don't know. I love when they announce Anderson Silva. They're like, man, he finally has done enough to be inducted in the UFC Hall of Fame. No, but I would love to see a physical one. But I did think that was cool with Faber. I know he was one of the first guys to be inducted in the Hall of Fame and fight after it. There haven't been too many guys to do, but I do remember he was one of those guys.
Well, I always find it fascinating that these guys, I mean, see, at first I thought he was coming back to fight in mixed martial arts, but he's actually coming back to fight in combat jiu-jitsu, which I always think it's good for an athlete at such a high level like Uriah Faber and myself, and even Jose Aldo, guys who come back to fight. It's good to stay active and do something, because the body at rest lays to rest. The body in motion stays in motion. And I think for him, like he said, every time it's close to his birthday, he always gets a wild hair up his ass, and he always wants to do something and compete. So I'm super excited to see how he does and see if he's going to do any more competitions after this. But like he said, if the opportunity comes and the money makes sense, like, I didn't know if that's how it happened for Chad Mendes by him getting to bare knuckle fighting. So he presented it to him, and then Chad Mendes made way more money in bare knuckle fighting than in mixed martial arts. And that's one thing that I always find, like, I think it's a good time. And I said it before in one of the other podcasts, that it's a good time for, if you have a big name and you want the opportunity to go make money outside of mixed martial arts, this is the best time to do it. right? Like Luke Rockhold, who knows what he made when he fought in Karate Combat? You know, Anthony Pettis, he's about to box under the undercard of Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. And then you have, you know, Mike Tyson about to fight. I wanted to ask him about that Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, but hey, we just got caught up in talking about business. It's a good time. And all I'm saying is it's a good time for athletes to go off and do something and make more money besides in mixed martial arts. And that's one of the things that I love about the old days of mixed martial arts, where you had all these guys, they would be able to bounce back and forth. You'd have, you know, the athletes you fight in Pride, they'll fight in Pride, then they'll go fight here. So you can actually follow them and see them fight more, and they can make more money. But now with contracts, it's like you're locked down. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. Where, you know, I remember Eddie, he was doing one championship, then he went to the Sabernical fighting, then he could do this. So what a time to be a fan in mixed martial arts. Not in mixed martial arts, but just in combat sports in general.
Yeah, my camera's about to die, so just sign off.
Well, wow, loser. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much. First off, thank you to all the fans out there listening. We are ranked number 12 in the sport, in the podcast space on Spotify, so we truly appreciate you guys. Without you guys, this podcast wouldn't be shit. And thank you to all of the guests we've had on so far. We appreciate you guys giving us the time to be able to talk to you guys. I'm truly passionate about what makes you guys tick and what you guys are doing in the future. So as always, I am your host, Demetrious Johnson, and my co-host, Michael Wansover. Boys, we'll see you at the next one. Cheer. Well, damn. Yeah, I hear you now. You ruined the end because you're fucking loud as fuck.